George MacDonald had a profound effect on his readers. Oddly, while he is best today remembered for his fantasy tales, materialism had a terrible strong hold on the inhabitants of the 19th century, and so it was his novels that made him popular in his own day. But even in his novels, the reader will find a strong touch of the metaphysical that so dominated his thoughts. MacDonald drew an enjoyment from reading books even as a young boy that encompassed all the typical poetical elements of elusiveness that so engaged the mystical-minded. By his late teens as a student at King's College in Aberdeen, young George was already reading Shelley, Coleridge, James Hogg, and Tom Moore, while also finding time to write poetry of his own. He had a powerful intellect, winning third prize in chemistry and fourth in natural philosophy, subjects he would lecture on years later at a ladies' college to earn some much-needed money. For a time he seriously considered going into medicine, but lack of funds forced him to retire the notion, and instead he devoted his energy to literature and languages. In time, having graduated with his Master of Arts, but still having no clear-cut career choice, he decided to enter Highbury College, where he would try his hand at theology. After 2 years there, he finally set upon what would seem to be his rightful course in life, that of a church minister. It must be said that the majority of the people in his congregations took to the young preacher. However, his conscience would never allow him to speak anything he believed to be untrue, especially regarding God, the Bible, or the faith. And so, he found himself at odds with clergymen and deacons nearly everywhere he tried to preach in these early days, mainly because of what some thought to be at least a somewhat universalistic outlook, and his anti-predestination stance, which in Calvinist Scotland at that time would have been considered something closing in on heretical. MacDonald only lasted around 2 years as a full-time preacher. During this time, however, he had his first book published. Within and Without, a book-length poem, appeared in 1855. George MacDonald was 31, and while it may seem that all his years of schooling had failed to bring him a substantial income, it was at least becoming clear what the future had in mind for him. In 1857, he had a second book of poetry published, but in 1858, his groundbreaking fairy tale for adults, Phantastes, met with great success, and finally put him on the map as a fiction writer. The map would have to adjust. C.S. Lewis, the author of the Screwtape Letters, The Chronicles of Narnia, Out of the Silent Planet, and several other classics, regarded MacDonald in as high esteem as one author can hold another. He quoted from him in nearly every book he wrote, even putting together George MacDonald, an anthology, taken mostly from MacDonald's religious writings. It was Phantastes that first introduced Lewis to MacDonald. He spoke of it in the introduction to his anthology. It must be more than 30 years ago that I bought, almost unwillingly, for I had looked at the volume on that bookshelf and rejected it on a dozen previous occasions, the Everyman edition of Phantastes. A few hours later, I knew I had crossed a great frontier. What it actually did to me was to convert, even to baptize, my imagination.